Jake Morrison stared at the view screen, his coffee growing cold in his hand. The Lucky Strike drifted through space at half speed, its engines humming quietly in the background. He had been salvaging for 15 years, but something about this sector felt different. Empty, too empty. "Cap, you seeing this?" Lisa Rogers called from her station. She was their science officer, though that really just meant she knew how to read the sensors better than the rest of them. "I'm getting some weird energy readings from Grid 7. Morrison set down his coffee and walked over to her console. The screen showed a jumbled mess of numbers and graphs that meant nothing to him. "What kind of weird?" "Power signature. Big one. But there's nothing out there. Not on any of our charts." Lisa frowned, adjusting the controls. "It's like something's running on full power but invisible." Ben Taylor looked up from where he was fixing the navigation panel. Their chief engineer was always fixing something on the Lucky Strike. "Could be pirates. They got cloaking tech now." "Pirates? Don't run ships that big," Lisa said, pointing at the power readings. "This thing is massive, bigger than a battlecruiser." Morrison rubbed his chin. 30 years ago, before humanity lost the war, they still had battlecruisers. Now the scattered human colonies got by with what they could scavenge. Ships like the Lucky Strike were about as good as it got. "Set a course. Let's check it out." Morrison sat back down in his captain's chair. It wasn't really a captain's chair, just a padded seat that swiveled, but it was his. Katie Brooks, their navigator, looked nervous. "Captain, that's pretty deep in the neutral zone. If the Vortari catch us—" "The Vortari don't patrol this sector," Morrison interrupted. "Too far from their core systems. Besides, when has that stopped us before?" The Lucky Strike changed course, its engine straining to push the old salvage vessel faster. Morrison had bought her 12 years ago with his life savings. She wasn't pretty, but she kept flying, which was more than many ships these days. As they got closer, the energy readings grew stronger. Lisa worked frantically at her console, trying to make sense of the data. "Captain, I'm picking up hull signatures now. It's definitely a ship. And it's human." The bridge went quiet. Human ships were rare these days. Most had been destroyed in the war or scavenged for parts by desperate colonies. "How old?" Morrison asked. "Unknown. But the design, it looks military. Really military. Not like the patrol boats the colonies use." Sam Miller, their communications officer, suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, I'm receiving a signal. It's a distress beacon. Human frequencies." Morrison felt his heart race. "Put it on speaker." The bridge filled with static. Then a voice emerged. It was clear, crisp, and completely automated. "This is USS Defiance, registration number NX7731. Beacon active. Awaiting crew return. This is USS Defiance." The message repeated. Morrison looked around at his crew. They all wore the same expression of disbelief. "Ben, tell me that's real," Morrison said. Ben was already working with Lisa, pulling up historical records on their limited database. "Captain, the USS Defiance was a prototype warship, launched just before the war ended. It went missing during the Battle of Proxima, 30 years ago. Missing how? Just vanished. Ships reported seeing it engage a Vortari squadron, then nothing. They figured it got destroyed." Morrison stood up. "Prep the docking clamps. We're going aboard." "Captain," Katie said hesitantly, "is that wise? If it's been out here 30 years, it's still broadcasting." Morrison cut her off. "Something's keeping the lights on. Lisa, life support readings?" Lisa's fingers flew over her console. "Minimal but present. Emergency power. Levels throughout the ship. No life signs, but the environmental systems are functioning." "All right. Lisa, Sam, you're with me. Ben, keep the Lucky Strike prepped for quick departure. Katie, Ryan, maintain watch. Keep scanning for any other ships." Ryan Pierce, their weapons officer, nodded. The Lucky Strike didn't have real weapons, just modified mining lasers, but Ryan knew how to use them if needed. 20 minutes later, Morrison stood in the airlock with Lisa and Sam. They wore old EVA suits that had seen better days. The Lucky, Strike had docked with the Defiance at a cargo bay door, somehow still functional after 3 decades. The airlock cycled, and they stepped into the Defiance. The corridor was pristine. Lights activated as they walked, responding to their presence. The walls were clean, the floors polished. It looked like a ship that had been abandoned yesterday, not 30 years ago. "This isn't right," Sam whispered. "Ships don't maintain themselves." Morrison led them toward what his suit's basic scanner indicated was the bridge. Every step felt surreal. Human military ships were legendary, but he'd never been on one. When they reached the bridge, Morrison stopped breathing for a moment. The view screens were active. Holographic displays flickered with data, and in the center of it all, a control console pulsed with a soft blue light. "Valkyrie online," a voice said. They all jumped. "Detecting human personnel. Captain's authorization required." Morrison approached the console carefully. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Lucky Strike. What's your status?" "Valkyrie, ship AI of the USS Defiance. Status, combat ready, awaiting orders. Time since last human contact, 30 years, 4 months, 12 days. Lisa stepped forward. "How have you maintained yourself?" "Self-repair nanite systems activated during final combat engagement. Mission parameters, preserve vessel until human forces can resume operations. Mission ongoing." Morrison looked around. The bridge. Real tactical displays, real command systems. This wasn't like the makeshift controls on the Lucky Strike. "Valkyrie, was your crew evacuated?" "Negative. Crew complement killed in action during Proxima engagement. Automated emergency protocols engaged. This vessel has been awaiting new crew assignment." Sam's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, I'm accessing the ship's logs. You need to see this." Morrison followed Sam to a secondary console, the screen filled with text and video logs, battle reports, tactical analyses, weapon specifications. His eyes widened as he read. "Lisa, are you seeing this? This ship has weapons we've never heard of, hellfire torpedoes, quantum shields. This is generations ahead of anything the colonies have." "Captain," Valkyrie interrupted. "Question. Are human forces prepared to resume operations against Vortari Empire?" Morrison exchanged glances with his crew. They'd spent 30 years hiding, surviving, scavenging. But this ship, Valkyrie, scan the Lucky Strike. "Is my crew sufficient to operate the Defiance?" "Scanning. Analysis complete. 6-person crew detected. Minimum crew complement 12. However, automated systems can compensate. Operation possible with current personnel." Morrison walked to the captain's chair. A real captain's chair. He didn't sit in it. Not yet. "Lisa, run full diagnostics. I want to know everything this ship can do. Sam, access those weapon systems. Find out what we're dealing with." Dr. Amy Wells's voice crackled over the comm from the Lucky Strike. "Captain, I'm detecting additional systems coming online. Medical bay, repair docks, hangar bay. This ship is waking up." Morrison stared at the main view screen. The Defiance was responding to human presence, 30 years of waiting ending in moments. "Valkyrie, one more question. Why didn't you return to human space after the battle?" "Navigation systems damaged. Repair protocols prioritized weapon systems and life support. Jump drive offline until 3 days ago." "Jump drive?" "We don't have jump drives." "Quantum jump drive, prototype. Faster than light travel without hyperspace navigation. Ready for testing." Morrison felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real hope. They'd found something the Vortari thought was dead. Something that could change everything. "Katie," he called over the comm. "Plot a course back to the nearest human colony. Looks like we're changing our plans." The next morning, Morrison stood in the Defiance's briefing room surrounded by his entire crew. Even Ryan and Katie had come aboard, leaving the Lucky Strike docked to the larger vessel. Ben Taylor was practically bouncing with excitement, his engineer's mind captivated by the pristine technology around them. "Valkyrie, show us what this ship can do," Morrison said, settling into one of the briefing chairs. Real chairs, with actual padding and ergonomic support, nothing like the makeshift seats on the Lucky Strike. The center of the table illuminated, projecting a three-dimensional hologram of the Defiance itself. The ship was sleek, angular, covered in weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. It looked like death itself had been shaped into steel. USS Defiance specifications, Valkyrie's voice filled the room. Length, 2,147 meters. Crew complement, 500 maximum, 200 optimal. Current crew, 6. Armament, primary, 4 quantum lance batteries. Secondary, 12 plasma cannon arrays. Special. Weapons, 16 Hellfire torpedo launchers. What's a Hellfire torpedo? Katie asked, leaning forward. The hologram shifted, showing a sleek black missile. Hellfire torpedoes utilize contained dark matter reactions. Upon impact, they create localized gravitational anomalies. Effect radius, 50 meters. Designed to penetrate quantum shields and armor simultaneously. Sam let out a low whistle. They make black holes? Micro-singularities, yes. Limited duration, approximately 3.7 seconds. Sufficient to disable or destroy most known vessel configurations. Morrison rubbed his temples. Every human colony combined didn't have weapons like these. Most were barely able to maintain modified mining equipment for defense. Power systems? Ben asked eagerly. Dual quantum reactors operational at 87% efficiency after self-repair protocols. Quantum jump drive functional as of 72 hours ago. Standard sublight engines at full capacity. Wait, Lisa interrupted. Did you say jump drive? We're talking? Faster than light? The hologram transformed into a star map. Quantum jump drive allows instantaneous travel between any 2 points in known space. Current galaxy mapping includes 47,923 systems. Human territories, 612 systems active, 3,891 presumed inactive or destroyed. Morrison felt his stomach drop. Presumed destroyed. That was most of human space. Valkyrie, what's the current status of the war with the Vortari? Unknown. Last data update occurred 30 years ago during Proxima engagement. Vortari Empire controlled approximately 40% of galaxy sectors 7 through 12. Human United Defense Forces in full retreat. The room grew quiet. They all knew humanity had lost the war. What they hadn't known was how completely. So we've been alone all this time, Amy Wells said softly. Just scattered colonies hiding. Affirmative. Scanning local space communications reveals limited human activity. Colonies operating under minimal technology protocols. Avoiding Vortari detection. Morrison stood up, pacing. Valkyrie, can you show us the main armory? Access granted. Follow blue guidance lights. They walked through corridors that seemed to understand their presence, lighting up ahead of them and dimming behind. The Defiance was more alive than any ship Morrison had ever seen. It reminded him of stories his grandfather told about warships during humanity's golden age. The armory doors opened with a soft hiss. The room beyond took Morrison's breath away. Rows upon rows of weapons lined the walls. Personal plasma rifles, electromagnetic pulse grenades, powered armor suits that looked like they could stop tank rounds. But what dominated the center of the room were the Hellfire torpedoes themselves. 16 warheads ready for deployment, Valkyrie announced. Each torpedo requires quantum signature authentication, captain's authorization, and 2 officer confirmations needed for launch. Ben was already examining a power armor suit. Cap, these are incredible. Shielding, enhanced strength, tactical displays. This is military tech 30 years ahead of anything we've seen. Show us the medical bay, Morrison requested. They followed the blue lights again, reaching a pristine medical facility that would be the envy of any colony. Advanced surgical units, stasis pods, and diagnostic equipment filled the space. Medical systems operational, Valkyrie reported. Capable of treating all known human ailments, genetic modifications, and combat trauma. Includes cellular regeneration, protocols. Amy's eyes lit up. This could save lives. We could help people. Real medical care instead of basic colony clinics. Captain, Sam spoke up. I've been monitoring communications. I think we should tell the colonies about this ship, about what we found. Morrison considered. The responsible thing would be to report back. Let the colony administrators decide. But something in his gut told him this was bigger than that. Valkyrie, can you monitor Vortari communications? Negative. Vortari quantum encryption remains unbreakable. However, monitoring human frequencies reveals recent activity of concern. What kind of activity? The holographic display shifted to show intercepted messages. Multiple human colonies reporting unknown ship movements near their systems. Colonies on extreme defensive protocols. Estimated 47 human settlements remain operational. That's all? Lisa asked. Just 47? Less than 10% of pre-war human presence. The weight of that number settled over them. 10%. Humanity was on the edge of extinction. Valkyrie, Morrison said slowly, if the Vortari find remaining human colonies, what happens? Based on historical data and mission archives, Vortari, protocol for discovered human settlements is complete eradication. No prisoners, no survivors. Katie spoke up. Then we need to warn them. Protect them. With one ship? Ryan asked skeptically. Even a fancy warship can't defend 47 colonies. Morrison looked around at his crew. 6 people. One incredible ship. An impossible situation. Valkyrie, show us the combat simulator. I want to know what this ship can really do. The briefing room transformed. Holograms surrounded them, creating a 360-degree battle environment. Enemy ships materialized. Blocky, ugly Vortari designs that Morrison recognized from old war footage. Simulation parameters? Valkyrie asked. 1 Defiance versus 12 Vortari cruisers. The simulation began. Morrison watched as holographic weapons fire lit up the space around them. The Defiance moved with impossible grace, quantum shields deflecting, energy blasts that could have destroyed the Lucky Strike with one hit. Hellfire torpedo launch sequence initiated, Valkyrie announced. 4 black streaks shot from the Defiance. Where they hit Vortari vessels, space twisted. The enemy ships crumpled, drawn into impossible angles as micro-singularities tore them apart. Simulation complete. Vortari vessels destroyed. 12. Defiance damage report. Minor shield fluctuations. Morrison stared at the aftermath. This ship wasn't just advanced. It was a game changer. Valkyrie, if we found a human colony under attack, could we defend it? Affirmative. Defiance combat systems designed for single-ship operations against superior numbers. Tactical protocols include colony defense, fleet engagement, and deep strike missions. Morrison made his decision. Then that's what we're going to do. Valkyrie, scan for the nearest human colony. We're going to find them and warn them that we're still fighting. Captain, Ben said hesitantly, we don't know how to operate this ship. Then we learn. Valkyrie can teach us. Morrison turned to his crew. This ship waited 30 years for someone to find it. Maybe it was waiting for us. Maybe this is our chance to matter. To really matter. Lisa nodded firmly. I'm in. We've been running and hiding for too long. One by one, the others agreed. 6 salvagers and scrappers were about to become the crew of humanity's most advanced warship. Valkyrie, begin training protocols. And scan for the colony called Terra Nova. Last I heard they had decent defenses. Acknowledged. Terra Nova located. Distance 12.7 light years. Estimated arrival at quantum jump speed 6.4 hours. Morrison grinned despite everything. Then let's go visit our neighbors. And Valkyrie? Prepare for combat. Something tells me our vacation's about to end. The Defiance hummed with newfound purpose as its 6-person crew began their crash course in saving humanity. The Defiance dropped out of quantum jump at the edge of Terra Nova's system. Morrison gripped his captain's chair as reality snapped back into focus. 6 hours of faster-than-light travel had felt like stepping through a door. One moment they were in empty space, the next they were home. Status report, Morrison called out. Lisa looked up from her console, frowning. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures around Terra Nova. Ships. Lots of them. Vortari? Sam asked, his hands already working the communications array. Negative. Human signatures. But something's wrong. They're broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Put it on speaker. Static filled the bridge. Then a voice broke through. Desperate. Terrified. This is Terra Nova Colony to any ships in range. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Vortari Armada. Bound. ETA 12 hours. Our defenses won't hold. Anyone who can hear this, please. The transmission cut off abruptly. Valkyrie, scan the system. Full sweep. Data flooded the main screen. Terra Nova appeared as a blue-green marble. 3 million humans according to the readings. Around it, smaller energy signatures moved frantically. Colony defense ships, barely so. More advanced than the Lucky Strike. Detecting incoming Vortari fleet, Valkyrie announced. Distance, 0.7 light-years. Velocity, 0.3 c. Estimated time of arrival, 11 hours, 47 minutes. Fleet composition, 147 vessels. Classification, 125 destroyers, 19 cruisers, 3 dreadnoughts. The bridge went silent. Morrison had seen dreadnoughts in old war footage. Each one could destroy a planet. Our defenses? Ben asked quietly. Lisa pulled. Yup, Terra Nova's defensive grid. 12 patrol boats, 8 converted freighters with mining lasers and orbital defense platforms. 30-year-old technology. Katie did the math quickly. They'll last maybe 30 minutes. Morrison stood up, pacing. 3 million people. Humanity's largest surviving colony. In 12 hours, they would be dead. Captain, Sam spoke up. I'm receiving a communication from the planet. They detected our jump signature. Open a channel. The view screen activated, showing a haggard man in a military uniform. His eyes were sunken, his hair unkempt. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. This is General Tom Carter, Terra Nova Defense Command. Identify yourself. I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Defiance. We're here to help. Carter's expression shifted from suspicion to disbelief. The Defiance? That's impossible. That ship was lost during the Proxima. It's a long story, General. Right now we need to discuss defensive positions. You have 11 hours before the Vortari arrive. We don't have defenses. We have wishes and prayers. Carter rubbed his face. Captain, we're evacuating what civilians we can, but our transports can only move a few thousand at a time. Most people will be staying to fight. Morrison looked around at his crew. 6 people, 1 ship, against 147 enemy vessels. General, patch me through to your tactical command. We have weapons that can help. 10 minutes later, Morrison stood in the briefing room with holographic representations of Terra Nova's defense team. Carter was there, along with other grim-faced officers. Show them, Valkyrie. The room filled with tactical displays, the Defiance's capabilities laid out in stark detail. Morrison watched the officers' eyes widen as they saw the Hellfire torpedo specifications. These weapons, Carter said slowly, they're real? Real and ready to deploy. We have 16 torpedoes. Each one can destroy a cruiser, damage a dreadnought. Hope flickered in Carter's eyes. 16 against 147, it's not enough. It's a start, Morrison replied. Valkyrie, show them Scenario Delta. The hologram shifted, displaying a battle plan. The Defiance positioned behind Terra Nova's larger moon, hidden from initial scans. Defense platforms reconfigured to create kill zones, timing sequences for maximum damage. We can't win a straight fight, Morrison explained, but we can make them pay, make them reconsider, maybe make them retreat. Lisa stepped forward. General, we've been analyzing their jump trajectory. They're coming in at high velocity, confident. They don't expect resistance. Why would they? Carter replied bitterly. We're barely holding together as it is. Morrison felt that familiar weight of command. The same feeling he'd had when deciding dangerous salvage runs, but magnified 1,000 times. Valkyrie, begin broadcasting on all human frequencies. Let every colony know that we're here, that we're fighting back. Captain, Sam interrupted, I'm detecting something. Additional ship signatures at the edge of the system. Not Vortari. The tension in the room ratcheted up. More enemies. Identify, Morrison ordered. Scanning. Ships are human design, old war vessels, heavily modified. They're responding to our broadcast. Morrison turned to Carter. You have other ships coming? We sent out a distress call 3 days ago. Thought maybe other colonies. Carter trailed off as the communications console came alive. Terra Nova Defense, this is Commander Paul Young of the Asteroid Belt Mining Collective. We heard your call. 7 ships inbound, armed and ready to fight. Another voice followed. Terra Nova, this is the Shadowrunner convoy. 12 ships. We're tired of running. More voices chimed in. Old mining barges with improvised weapons, converted colony ships with salvaged military hardware, desperate people in desperate vessels, answering a call they thought they'd never hear again. Valkyrie, tactical assessment. Human reinforcements. Total 24 vessels. Combined firepower equivalent to 9 Vortari destroyers. Significant defensive asset when properly coordinated. Morrison realized something was happening, something that hadn't occurred in 30 years. Humans were gathering to fight. Together. General Carter, we need to coordinate these forces. Create attack formations that maximize our limited firepower. Over the next hour, plans came together. The Defiance would serve as the hammer, striking hard and fast with Hellfire torpedoes. The converted ships would form defensive screens, protecting Terra Nova's orbital platforms. The mining barges with their heavy ore processors would create overlapping fields of fire. It's still not enough, Ryan said quietly. Even with everything, we're outgunned 20-1. Morrison looked at the tactical display again. Numbers didn't lie, but numbers weren't everything. Valkyrie, what percentage chance of success? Given current variables, 23% probability of defending Terra Nova, 67% probability of inflicting significant casualties on enemy forces, 98% probability of raising human morale across remaining colonies. Sometimes, Morrison said, it's not about winning. It's about standing up, showing you're still in the fight. Carter nodded slowly. My grandfather fought in the war. He used to say that humans don't quit. We just regroup and try again. Then let's regroup, Morrison decided. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Begin defensive positions. We hold this line. We protect our people. And we show the Vortari that humanity isn't finished yet. The next 11 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Energy cells charged, weapons calibrated, armor plating reinforced where possible. Morrison walked the corridors of the Defiance, feeling the ship's subtle vibrations. Valkyrie had optimized every system, prepared for the fight to come. Ben found Morrison in the observation deck, looking out at Terra Nova. The planet, slowly, rotated below them, cities visible as points of light on the night side. You ready for this, Cap? Morrison took a deep breath. No, but I'm here anyway. That's all any of us can do. Captain, Valkyrie's voice echoed through the ship. Vortari fleet has entered the system. 12 minutes to weapons range. All human vessels report ready. Morrison headed back to the bridge, Ben beside him. The rest of the crew was already there at their stations, faces grim but determined. Valkyrie, open a channel to all human ships. The channel opened, and Morrison could hear breathing, murmurs, whispered prayers from across the fleet of desperate defenders. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. In 5 minutes, we face an enemy that thinks we're finished. They think humanity is broken, scattered, defeated. Let's show them they're wrong. Tonight we stand. Tonight we fight. Tonight we remind the galaxy who we are. On the main screen, red dots appeared at the edge of the system. 147 enemy vessels, moving in perfect formation toward Terra Nova. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair, hands steady on the controls. All stations report ready. Weapons ready. Shields ready. Navigation ready. Medical bay ready. Tactical ready. Morrison looked at his crew. 6 people who had gone from salvagers to warriors in days. Valkyrie, When they enter optimal range, you know what to do. Confirmed, Captain. Hellfire torpedoes ready for deployment. Target lock established. Awaiting your command. The red dots grew larger on the screen. The battle for Terra Nova was about to begin. The Vortari fleet moved like a swarm of metal locusts across space. Morrison watched the tactical display as enemy destroyers formed attack wings, preparing to sweep Terra Nova's defenses aside. The 3 dreadnoughts hung back, massive, dark, shapes that would finish what the smaller ship started. They're splitting their forces, Lisa reported. 70 destroyers coming in fast, the rest holding formation around the dreadnoughts. Morrison gripped his armrest. The plan was simple. Let the first wave commit, then strike hard and fast. Draw the main fleet into Terra Nova's defensive grid where the converted ships could help. Valkyrie, maintain stealth mode until we reach optimal firing position. Acknowledged. Quantum shimmer active. We are effectively invisible to their sensors. The next 10 minutes stretched like hours. Morrison watched human ships move into position. The converted mining barges lumbered into place, their improvised armor gleaming dully in the starlight. Fast patrol boats zipped between larger vessels, creating a defensive web around Terra Nova. Vortari are hailing Terra Nova, Sam reported. Let's hear it. The view screen activated, showing a Vortari war admiral. His gray skin stretched tight over a skeletal face, 4 eyes burning with cold contempt. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding stone. Human settlement, you have 1 minute to surrender unconditionally. Your defenses are pathetic. Your resistance is meaningless. Submit, and your deaths will be quick. General Carter appeared on a split screen, his jaw set. Go to hell. The Vortari's thin lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. Then you will die slowly, and we will crack your planet's crust for sport. The transmission ended. Incoming, Katie shouted. 70 Vortari destroyers attack formation. Space lit up as enemy ships opened fire. Bright blue energy beams carved through the darkness, seeking human targets. The first wave hit Terra Nova's orbital platforms, shields flaring and failing. Under concentrated bombardment. Now, Morrison called. Valkyrie, drop stealth. All weapons target the lead destroyers. Fire Hellfire torpedoes 1 through 4. The Defiance materialized behind the Vortari formation like a ghost becoming solid. 4 black streaks shot from its torpedo launchers, each finding its mark. Where the torpedoes hit, space bent and twisted. 4 Vortari destroyers crumpled, pulled into impossible shapes by artificial black holes before winking out of existence. Direct hits, Ryan reported. Enemy shields didn't even register the impact. The Vortari fleet reacted instantly, ships scattered, redirecting fire toward the Defiance. Blue beams converged on the human warship, but quantum shields absorbed the energy, distributing it across overlapping barrier fields. Return fire. All weapons, Morrison ordered. Quantum lances erupted from the Defiance's main batteries. Pure, energy beams concentrated beyond anything the Vortari had seen before, sliced through enemy armor like surgical blades. Plasma cannons added their hellish chorus, sending volleys of superheated matter into the enemy formation. They're adapting, Lisa warned. Vortari cruisers moving to intercept, 20 destroyers breaking off to flank us. Morrison's mind raced. The Defiance was powerful, but it couldn't take fire from that many ships at once. Not with 6 people. Trying to run systems meant for hundreds. All human ships, this is Captain Morrison. Form on us. Create overlapping fields of fire. The response was immediate. Mining barges swung their heavy ore processors around, spraying the void with chains of explosive charges. Converted freighters launched salvos of modified cargo containers, filled with explosives. The desperate fleet moved with purpose, protecting their miracle ship. Hellfire torpedoes 5 through 8, target cruisers, Morrison called out. 4 more black streaks. 4 more impossibilities in space as micro-singularities ripped through enemy vessels. But the Vortari main fleet was moving now, dreadnoughts advancing with their enormous mass. Captain, Ben shouted from engineering. Shield generators at 67% and dropping. Morrison made a split-second decision. Valkyrie, prepare quantum jump, short range, put us between Terra Nova and those dreadnoughts. Jump coordinates locked. Executing in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. The Defiance disappeared from one point in space and materialized directly in front of the advancing dreadnoughts. At this range, Morrison could see the details of enemy armor, plating, weapon ports opening like hungry mouths. All forward weapons, everything we have. The Defiance unleashed hell. Quantum lances struck dreadnought shields, causing chain reactions of light and energy. Plasma cannons carved burning scars across enemy hulls. Hellfire torpedoes fired at point-blank range created gravitational chaos that pulled smaller escort ships into their deadly embrace. But 3 dreadnoughts, even damaged, were too much. Return fire hammered the Defiance. Shields failed entirely. Armor plating buckled under the assault. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 9, Amy reported from medical. Emergency force fields holding. Engineering, I need more power, Morrison called out. Reactors at maximum, Ben responded. Any more and we'll overload. Morrison looked at his tactical display. They'd destroyed 38 enemy ships. The human defense forces had taken down 12 more. But over 90 Vortari vessels remained, and the Defiance was dying. Then something impossible happened. Captain, Sam called out excitedly. I'm reading quantum signatures, ships dropping out of jump space. On the edge of the system, space rippled. 1 ship appeared, then 5, then 20, human warships, old but still deadly, emerging from wherever they'd hidden for 30 years. Vortari fleet. This is Commander Sarah Tran of the Phoenix Rising. Thanks for painting us a target. More voices joined her. Admiral Rick Hawks, Endeavour Battle Group, moving to engage. Captain Janet Ford, Strike-Wing Delta, weapons hot. The tide of battle shifted. The new arrivals opened fire immediately, coordinated volleys striking confused Vortari formations. Ships that had been hiding in deep space, waiting for a sign that humanity still fought, had heard Valkyrie's broadcast and answered. Valkyrie! Morrison shouted over the chaos. How many ships total? Human reinforcements now number 67 vessels. Combined fleet strength approaching tactical parity with enemy forces. Morrison couldn't believe it. All across human space, survivors had been watching, waiting, and when they saw Terra Nova stand and fight, they'd come running. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Concentrate fire on the dreadnoughts. Hit them with everything. The combined human fleet moved as one. Years of desperate survival had taught every captain how to fight with whatever they had. Mining lasers, converted weapons, salvaged military hardware, all of it focused on the massive enemy capital ships. The first dreadnought's shields collapsed under the sustained assault. Explosions rippled across its hull as internal systems failed. It began to list, secondary explosions tearing it apart from within. Dreadnought 1 is critical, Ryan reported. They're trying to self-destruct. All ships, clear blast radius, Morrison ordered. The Vortari dreadnought erupted in a chain reaction of nuclear fire. The shockwave knocked smaller vessels tumbling, but when the light faded, one enemy capital ship was gone. Sir, Lisa called out. The other 2 dreadnoughts are breaking off. They're retreating. Morrison stared at the tactical display. Impossible. Vortari didn't retreat, not from humans, not ever. The remaining enemy ships followed their commander's lead. Destroyers and cruisers disengaged, firing desperate covering shots as they aligned for jump. Within minutes, the Vortari fleet began disappearing, 1 ship at a time. Valkyrie, casualty report. Vortari losses, 89 vessels destroyed, 58 retreating. Human losses, 23 vessels destroyed, 31 damaged. Terra Nova defensive grid, 67% operational. Morrison slumped in his chair. They'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, they'd driven off a Vortari armada. Captain, Sam said quietly, we're receiving hundreds of transmissions, colonies across human space. They're all asking the same thing. What's that? They want to know if it's true, if we're really fighting back, if there's hope. Morrison looked at his battered crew. 6 people who'd found a lost ship and decided to make a difference. Around them, dozens of human vessels maintained formation, ready for whatever came next. Valkyrie, open a channel, all human frequencies. Let everyone hear this. The channel opened, and Morrison knew he was speaking to every surviving human settlement in the galaxy. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Defiance. Today we held the line at Terra Nova. Today we showed the Vortari that humanity still fights. To every colony listening, know this. We are not broken. We are not defeated. We are not alone. As long as there are humans who stand and fight, there is hope. The war isn't over, it's just beginning again. The responses came immediately. Not just from Terra Nova, but from colonies light years away. Messages of defiance, of hope, of readiness to fight. Morrison turned to his crew. Well, team. Looks like our salvaging days are over. Lisa smiled despite the exhaustion on her face. Good. I was getting tired of picking through scrap. Outside the viewports, Terra Nova turned slowly in the void, battered but unbowed. Around it, humanity's fleet regrouped, preparing for whatever came next. The war was far from over, but for the first time in 30 years, they weren't just surviving. They were fighting back. 2 weeks after the Battle of Terra Nova, Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Defiance watching dozens of ships move through space. Human ships. Working together. Building something. Final count, Captain, Lisa said, joining him with a steaming cup of coffee. Real coffee from Terra Nova's supplies. 63 ships committed to the new fleet, more arriving every day. Morrison took the coffee gratefully. Valkyrie, any word from our scouts? Affirmative, Captain. 3 scouting missions completed successfully. No Vortari presence in human border systems. They appear to be consolidating their forces in core territory. The Vortari were afraid. Actually afraid of humans again. The thought still amazed Morrison. Captain, Sam's voice came over the intercom. You're wanted in the main briefing room. The War Council is assembled. Morrison made his way to the briefing room where holographic projections of 50 other captains waited. Some were in salvaged military uniforms. Others wore civilian clothes. All had the same hard look of people who'd survived 30 years of hiding and were ready to fight. Captains, Morrison began, we've achieved something incredible. But this is just the beginning. Valkyrie, show them what we've learned. The room filled with data streams, tactical analyses, enemy fleet movements, resource allocations. Vortari forces have pulled back from 12 systems in the last week, Valkyrie reported. This represents the first territorial retreat in 31 years. Enemy morale appears affected by unexpected human resistance. Captain Rick Hawks of the Phoenix Rising spoke up. Our combined fleet is still outnumbered 3-1. True, Morrison replied, but we have advantages. Quantum jump drives give us mobility they can't match. Our modified weapons hit harder than they expect. And most importantly, we're fighting for survival while they're fighting for conquest. Janet Ford appeared on screen. What about the other Hellfire torpedoes? Can we manufacture more? Valkyrie answered. Negative. Current stockpile represents unique prototypes. However, standard quantum lances can be upgraded using Defiance's fabrication systems. Morrison pulled up a star map. We can't match them, ship for ship, but we can change how this war is fought. Hit-and-run tactics protect our colonies while striking their supply lines, make them afraid to spread their forces. What about reinforcements? Asked Commander Sarah Tran. There have to be more human ships out there, more colonies in hiding. Valkyrie has been broadcasting our victory across known space. Every day we get new responses. People are coming out of hiding. Colonies are sharing resources instead of hoarding them. For the next hour, they planned. Not just defense, but offense. Coordinated strikes against Vortari supply depots. Rescue missions to liberated human settlements. A real war effort, not just desperate survival. After the council, dismissed, Morrison found himself alone with his core crew in the captain's ready room. 6 salvagers who'd started this journey looking for scrap. You know what this means, Ben said quietly. We can't go back to the lucky strike. To the old life. Would you want to? Amy asked. Morrison looked around at his people. Katie had worn navigation codes like battle scars. Ryan had memorized weapon systems no human had used in decades. Sam coordinated communications across light years. Lisa understood systems beyond anything they'd dreamed. Ben kept a hybrid of human and Vortari, tech running smoothly. The question isn't whether we go back, Morrison said. It's whether humanity goes forward. A soft chime interrupted them. Captain, Valkyrie announced. Priority transmission from Deep Space Patrol. Put it through. The screen activated, showing a young officer Morrison didn't recognize. The man's voice crackled with excitement and fear. Defiance, this is Lieutenant Mike Thompson, Deep Patrol Vessel Wanderer. We've found something. Coordinates follow. You need to see this. Data streams filled the screen. A massive structure in deep space. Clearly artificial. Clearly not human or Vortari. It's a shipyard, the lieutenant continued. Ancient, pre-war, maybe older. And Captain, it's still operational. Morrison felt his heart race. A functioning shipyard meant new ships. Real warships. The ability to build a fleet instead of scavenging one. Valkyrie analysis. Structure matches theoretical designs from early human deep space exploration. Appears to be autonomous manufacturing facility. If functional, could produce vessels of Defiance class or higher. For a moment, the ready room was silent. Then Ben spoke, his engineer's mind already racing. We could build a fleet, a real fleet. Not just preserve humanity, Katie added, but take back what we lost. Morrison made his decision quickly. Set course for those coordinates, and signal all fleet captains. We may have just found our secret weapon. As the Defiance prepared for quantum jump, Morrison stood once more at the observation deck. Below, Terra Nova gleamed peacefully. Around it, human ships moved with purpose. In the distance, quantum signatures appeared as more vessels arrived to join the growing fleet. His crew gathered behind him, watching the same view. Think the Vortari know what they started? Ryan asked. Morrison smiled. I don't think they expected humans to find a reason to fight together again. They thought we were broken, scattered, finished. And now? Sam prompted. Now they're about to remember why the galaxy once feared human warships. Why they had to unite half the galaxy to stop us the first time. Morrison turned to his crew. The difference is this time we're not just fighting to survive, we're fighting to win. Lisa raised an imaginary glass. To the Defiance. To humanity. To that ancient human saying. Which one? Amy asked. The one we used to end vid messages before the war. The one we should bring back now. Morrison grinned, understanding immediately. He'd seen it in old military records, scratched into bunker walls, painted on fighter ships. 3 words that promised everything. Together, the crew of the Defiance spoke in unison. We're coming back. Outside, quantum drives hummed to life. Human ships aligned for jump. Communications arrays broadcasted defiance across the galaxy. The scattered descendants of Earth weren't hiding anymore. They weren't just surviving. The war was about to change. And somewhere in the void, ancient machinery stirred to life, ready to build humanity's return to the stars. Morrison took one last look at Terra Nova, then turned toward the bridge. There was work to do. Ships to build. A war to win. The Ghost, ship that had waited 30 years, had awakened more than just its crew. It had awakened humanity's warrior spirit, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Defiance disappeared into quantum space, its message echoed across thousands of human settlements. This is only the beginning.